Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I get to say that because it is 1 minute past noon. I'm Bex Hayhoe-Khalil, the Executive Director of United to End Homelessness here with Orange County United Way. Thank you so much for tuning in today for this month's community chat. Every month, we host these online webinars where I get to bring in a talented guest who has a unique area of expertise, and we just get to have a conversation and talk to each other about their expertise and how it connects to addressing homelessness here in Orange County, California. And today I'm really excited to be discussing the unique experiences of the trans, gender nonconforming, and intersex, abbreviated to TGI community, as they navigate housing insecurity. And joining me today is Khloe Rios-Wyatt, the Executive Director and founder of Alianza Translatinx, the first trans-led and trans community serving organization here in Orange County. So Khloe, I would love for you to introduce yourself, share a little about what led to you founding this organization.
Hi, Bex. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I just want to start by saying that my journey is very personal, very deeply personal. As a trans woman and as a DACA recipient, I faced many barriers, from job loss due to my gender identity to struggling to find support systems that really understood my experience. And also, after graduating from Cal State Fullerton, I was fired from a marketing job because my legal documents didn't align with my gender identity. And that was a painful moment in my life. It really pushed me into depression and made me realize how difficult it is for people like me to navigate basic systems, from employment to healthcare and especially housing. Housing has quickly emerged as a major issue, not just for TGI people, but for many other communities. People experiencing housing discrimination. I knew this wasn't just about me, and my story wasn't unique. It was a community-wide problem that I faced and that I was going through. So when I co-founded Alianza Translatinx during the early days of the pandemic, we started small by distributing meals to those in need. And then soon we realized that the TGI community needed much more. It needed housing, it needs healthcare, legal services, employment support. And most importantly, we lacked data to back up what we knew from personal experience, concrete data to advocate for systemic changes. That's why we focused on building Alianza Translatinx into a hub where TGI individuals can access resources while also documenting our experiences to drive meaningful policy changes. And that's really how we started Alianza Translatinx, and that's really what Alianza Translatinx is based on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your parts of your own story and the journey that has led us to today. And I know that earlier this year, Alianza released a groundbreaking report, the Orange County's inaugural TGI survey, We Deserve Housing Justice. Could you share a little bit more? You hinted at it, but can you share a little bit more about what motivated you to initiate that project?
Yeah. So the motivation really stemmed from a critical gap. Like I said earlier, there was no data specifically addressing the housing challenges faced by TGI individuals in Orange County. And without this data, it's really difficult to advocate for effectively for policy changes or resources. We need something concrete to unfortunately, right? Like we need something concrete to present to policymakers and service providers that demonstrates the scale of the issues we are seeing firsthand. And the survey that we just presented back in June, And the survey really allowed us to document the lived experiences of TGI communities and provide a clear picture of the barriers we are facing in accessing safe, stable housing in Orange County. We were very fortunate to receive support from CalOptima Health and also from the Samueli Foundation, which really helped us make this project a possibility. And that's really what stemmed the creation of this survey and this report. It was to address a critical gap that it's still there and that we need to pay more attention to.
Thank you, Chloe. Let's dig into this report. It is a beautiful document. So, and I know a lot of thought went into that. And I know we could talk a lot about the beautiful presentation, but there are so many significant findings that are in here. And so I would love to hear from you. From your vantage point, what are some of the most significant findings from this report?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the findings were both eye-opening and heartbreaking. Let's start, for instance, 68% of the respondents reported experiencing discrimination based on their gender identity, which is one of the largest barriers to accessing stable housing in Orange County. But even more alarming was the fact that 64 out of the 77 respondents said that they didn't know of any shelter or housing programs in Orange County that felt inclusive or respectful of their gender identity. This speaks to a huge gap in services that are available to our community here in Orange County. I also, and thanks for sharing the slide, so you can read the stats there as well. But we also found that 44% of TGI individuals in Orange County are surviving on an income of less than $10,000 a year, which makes accessing any form of stable housing almost impossible. And there's also a statistic there that over 60% of respondents reported experiencing discrimination, not just in housing, but also in employment, which keeps them trapped, if you think about it, in low-paying jobs and unstable housing situations. These numbers aren't just statistics. They truly represent real people who are constantly battling against systemic inequities in Orange County. And that's really what we're trying to fight against, right? So the fact that the TGI community is going through this, and these are the statistics that we found, it really speaks to what type of work are we doing in Orange County to end homelessness.
Thank you, Chloe. I know one of the questions that you referenced and that has been talked about quite a bit around this report is around whether the participants and the respondents were able to or knew about shelters or housing programs that were specific to their needs or where they would feel safe. And the answer to that was a resounding no, which is not good for Orange County and a clear area of improvement for us, and highlighting a gap across our system. And so I would love to dig into this a little bit more. Can you talk about some policies and practices that would help make a shelter be more inclusive?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would start by saying that creating inclusive shelters for TGI clients requires a shift in how we approach shelter policies and design. First, shelters need to allow individuals to be housed based on their gender identity, not their sex assigned at birth. And that's something that we continue to see, unfortunately, here in Orange County. This is critical for the safety and the dignity of TGI individuals. I would also say that gender-neutral facilities like restrooms, showers, and sleeping areas are also essential, as they remove the discomfort and the potential harm of gender-segregated spaces. I would also add that staff training is another crucial element. All shelter staff should really undergo cultural competency trainings to better understand and to serve TGI clients, to also ensure, right, that there's no misgendering, that there's no discrimination or exclusion. I know that there's a lot of anti-discrimination laws, but I would also add that anti-discrimination policies must be clear and strictly enforced. And shelters should be transparent about their policies to foster trust within communities, and more specifically within the TGI community. I guess to conclude this answer, I would say that outreach is vital. Many TGI individuals don't know where to go for help because they assume, and often very rightfully, honestly, that they won't be welcomed in traditional shelters. And so more community outreach and partnerships with TGI-led organizations like Alianza Translatinx can really help bridge this gap.
Thank you, Chloe. Thanks for highlighting the sort of the multiple components here. And, what I'm really hearing is it's not enough that we have, anti-discrimination laws that are out there, but we really need to see this being translated at the local level, in terms of making sure that people who are on the front lines are trained. So outreach workers and shelter workers, and really what I also took away from this was the need to reconsider how we design shelters, the layout of shelters. And there were so many really helpful pieces there. And thank you for providing some very clear kind of next steps for anybody that might be watching who's thinking about how to make their environment more inclusive. So thank you so much for that. One of the things that I loved about the report is that it ends with a housing manifesto. And I would really love for you to talk more about what is stated in this manifesto. And as you're doing so, just share, what are you hopeful for coming out of this process?
Yeah, thanks for asking about this. This is also, by the way, one of my favorite parts of the report. And the reason is because it is really a call to action. And the manifesto, which is sort of towards the back end of the report at the end of it, it really outlines specific demands for safe, for inclusive and affordable housing for TGI individuals. Through the manifesto, we're calling for policies that prohibit housing discrimination based on gender identity. But we're also asking for more, right? Like the development of, for example, inclusive shelters, the creation of affordable housing programs that prioritize TGI individuals, and also better access to mental health and legal services for TGI individuals. What I would say I'm most hopeful for is systemic change. And I think that's what this manifesto is calling for. I really want to see a shift in how housing services are structured, where TGI individuals aren't just accommodated, but are truly welcomed and respected. I'm really eager to see policymakers, service providers, and community leaders work with TGI-led organizations to make this vision a reality. And through this manifesto, which, by the way, was put together by everybody that worked on the report, identified as part of the TGI community, and so it was put together by us and for us. Through the manifesto, we're not just asking for anything extraordinary, just the basic right to safety and to stable housing. That really is what I would summarize the manifesto to be: the basic right to safe, stable housing.
Thanks, Chloe. One of the things that I think I'd like to talk about a little bit here, and my apologies, probably should have covered this a little earlier in the agenda, but we haven't talked about the process for this report. Can you share a little bit more because I think this is really important for people to understand. What was the sort of design behind putting this together? Who was involved in creating the process? What did that look like? Can you share a little bit more about that? Because I think that's really important information.
Yeah, so we started the process of creating this report, I would say almost a year and a half ago. And it started with the idea, like I mentioned at the beginning of the chat, to build data that really highlighted the needs of our community. So we sent out this proposal to CalOptima to receive funding and to be able to establish this and initiate the work. And it was approved. And then from there, we decided to also bring in individuals who have expertise in creating these type of reports and surveys, because we wanted it to be a very complete report. We just didn't want it to be a survey. We wanted this to be a complete report that had all these components and that had all this information to bring back to the Orange County continuum of care. So it all started with that. We were able to hire a consulting company that is also comprised of all TGI individuals that has experience with putting together these type of reports. And they were really a crucial part. Consulting Cuties was a really crucial part in helping us put together this report, designing the survey. And then really the team at Alianza Translatinx was responsible for going into the community, doing the outreach, using social media to really engage community members and get these many responses. So I think the process was very community driven. It was, I want to say that it was a great experience working with all TGI individuals and from the perspective and through the lens of TGI people, and doing something that is going to benefit our community. So overall, the process was amazing. And I just really want to thank also Consulting Cuties and the entire team at Alianza Translatinx, because we all did a fantastic job. And that is why we have this amazing report. And hopefully our goal is to replicate this, right? And to continue to build on this work that we have done.
Thanks, Chloe. I think what I get so inspired by every time I hear you talking about how the report was done was how community driven it was, and the involvement of the people who are living this every day, for whom this is their reality. We talk a lot in the homelessness sector about people with lived experience and how to make sure that they are a part of everything. And I really see in what you did with this report, this incredible model for how to do that to the highest degree. And so, yeah, so thank you for sort of trailblazing that and for really providing such a concrete example of how to do that. Was there anything that you kind of learned in that process? Anything that was surprising to you? Anything challenging, anything amazing through the process of doing that?
I knew going into the creation of the report that my story was not isolated, that I wasn't the only one struggling with housing, but it really impacted me to learn that there's a lot of individuals out there that are impacted by housing, and there's a lot of individuals that are on the verge of losing their homes because of the high rents of the high prices of rent. That was something that I didn't really learn, but it was eminent, right? Like to not pay attention to. So I would say that that's the thing that I was left with after this report, is knowing that, like you said, this is the very first report of its kind, and how can we continue to do the work so that we can replicate this and we can continue to elevate the voices of those individuals who are not able to truly speak. but they are out there and they're struggling with housing. So I would say that that's what really impacted me the most, is learning that there's so many people out there that are struggling every day of their lives to just sustain their house, or they're paying the rent, or being able to afford a place to live.
I know you've been out and about in the community talking about the report, sharing about the report. Can you share with everybody here, where are some places that you've been able to present the findings? How has that been going? How's it being received?
Yeah, so I'm most recently I was at the Orange County Continuum of Care Board of um, the Board of Orange County Continuum of Care, right? And I think that was so amazing because, again, that was part of what we proposed that we would do. And so to be able to do it a year later after we finished the project, that was really fantastic. I would say that the reception for this report has been incredible positive. We've had the opportunity to present findings at the Orange County Continuum of Care. It was clear that there's a growing awareness of the issue faced by the TGI community. I would say that we had a great turnout during our dissemination of findings of the report as well. We did the dissemination of findings at the Orange County Museum of Arts in Costa Mesa. We received both from local housing providers and also the community a lot of attendees, and that was really magnificent to see. And also the report has gained a lot of attention from local and national news outlets, which is helping to amplify the voices of our community into a larger scale. I believe that there were newspapers out there in Florida that also picked up the story, and that's really incredible because it's showing that, like you said earlier, it's a model, not just for California or Orange County, but hopefully for other states that are not as protected as California in terms of trans rights. And so to see that, that was really gratifying. Also, many people who weren't aware of the extent of discrimination faced by TGI individuals are now not only informed, but also eager to help. We received a lot of emails from individuals who want to come and volunteer at Alianza Translatinx, and they want to get involved. And that's really magnificent. And we've had housing providers and community leaders also reach out to see how they can better serve their TGI clients. And that's exactly the kind of responses that we wanted, and to be able to drive change in Orange County.
I'm so happy to hear that there's already been that level of movement. And I can tell you from the registrations to the chat today, we had people joining us from San Diego, LA. We had somebody sign up from Shanghai. That was interesting. Sacramento, Grace Island, El Cajon, I think I said Vegas already, Riverside, Reedley, Greensboro, Camarillo, Little Rock. So we have people tuning in today. So hello, if you're watching. And I just mentioned one of the places that you're from. But this tells me that there is a real need, interest, excitement around what the report has produced. And so congratulations on that. That is fantastic.
Thank you. And I would also just say to those people, thanks for joining. And hopefully you can help us distribute this information to your organizations, to other individuals, because that's really how we start creating changes, by informing and educating.
And I just saw we have Hawaii here. So aloha, right back to you. That has been, yeah, really wonderful. As the report has been going out into the community, how has it been for the participants, for the people that were a part of the focus groups, for the people who responded to the surveys? You know, it's their stories that made the report possible. So what has it been like for them to have seen this rollout?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So the report was anonymous. So all the responses were anonymous, but I think so. When we did the dissemination of findings at the museum, we did have some of the folks that also responded to the survey come out and also be a part of that, and they were also there to experience, right, like the dissemination of findings. And a lot of the messages and that we've received after that is that they feel like they've been heard and that they feel like their voices are being heard. And that's really amazing to hear from community, because that's exactly what we wanted. But we've also received a lot of messages from our community saying that the work needs to continue, and that creating one report is fantastic, but also we need to continue to do reports that are similar so that we can continue to elevate the quality of life of our people. So I welcome all types of feedback, because that's really how we grow, not just as an organization, but also as a community. And so to hear these type of comments really encourage us to do and continue to do work as an organization, as Orange County's pioneering Translate.org.
So you mentioned that the work needs to continue and the work needs to grow. Can you share a little bit more? What does that look like? Is there anything on the horizon for Alianza?
Yeah, I would say that we are, as an organization, leading the work and being the voice for trans people in Orange County. And as we move forward, we want to make sure that we continue to create programs, services, reports, anything that we do as an organization with community's input, and having community be involved in the process from beginning to end. And that's how we envision the work of Alianza to be done now and in the future. And obviously, housing is one of the issues that we are focusing on as an organization as well, and that we need to address, as we wanna be a part of this movement, but also we wanna contribute and ensure that no one really has to struggle with housing, because that's a basic right that we all should have, and that we shouldn't be worrying about where we're going to sleep next. So the commitment of Alianza Translatinx continues to creating services that elevate our community's well-being.
Thanks, Chloe. I know when I was looking through the registration state, not only did I notice the wide geographical places that people were coming from, but I noticed a really significant number of cities and colleges, so places of higher education, had responded today. I'm going to make a hypothesis that if any city or community college or anybody was interested in you coming and providing a presentation on the findings, that you would be up for that.
We would love to. Yeah, I think we're open we're open to going out and presenting and sharing the information that we have. Let me know. We can make it happen.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's one of, the hopes in these sessions like this, is to have a place for you to share that, and so that there can be a ripple effect. And so I would say to anybody watching, if this is information that's really important to bring to your network, then please reach out. We've popped the information for Alianza Translatinx's website. There it is. It's right there again, the contact information. And so please reach out and let Chloe and team know that you would be interested in having a presentation, so that we can keep these conversations ongoing in Orange County. Is there anything for people we also have a lot of advocates, people who I can see in the chat box, in the Q&A box, who are asking, how can they be a part of bringing about change? And so anything that you would recommend to people who are saying, this information is really important, what can I do about it?
Yeah, I would say, First, that collaboration is needed. It's needed, and it's key to making lasting change. I encourage everyone to educate themselves also, read the report, understand the specific challenges faced by TGI community, use that knowledge to inform your actions. I would also say to support TGI-led organizations like Alianza Translatinx. There aren't many out there, and we need more trans-led orgs, whether it's through donations, volunteering, or even just sharing our work with your networks. Every bit of support helps us continue our mission. I also say that advocacy is critical. We need allies to help push for policy changes at the local and state levels. If you have a platform, use it like this one, right? Use it to amplify the voices of TGI people in your community, and don't hesitate to reach out to policymakers and service providers to advocate for more inclusive housing policies. I think that when we work together, we can create a future where everyone has access to safe, stable, and affirming housing.
That's great. I know oftentimes when we're having these conversations and about how people can get involved locally, one of the things that I often suggest to them is to figure out what is their city doing around addressing homelessness. And I have a series of sort of questions that I sort of say, hey, like if you want to figure out what's going on, try to find out, does your city have outreach workers? Does your city have an emergency shelter? Does your city fund rapid rehousing? Does your city have permanent supportive housing? And I think you've just given us another really great question to ask, is around access, inclusion, and to find out what are their city's policies, are the agencies that they're providing funding to, is this part of how they are screening agencies, not energies, that's the wrong word. How, is that part of how they are assessing an agency's ability to deliver services?
I guess if you can clarify more the question, that would help for me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. It wasn't a question for you
Oh.
or just for anybody watching. It's sort of, I think, that question around access. So if somebody wanted to kind of dig a little deeper into what their local city was doing or what their local agencies were doing, to be able to ask them those questions around access, inclusion, and how they do that in the provision of their services. And so that might be, I think, just as I heard you talking, I was like, oh, that's another really great way to empower people who want to be involved in making a difference. Which does lead me to another question for you, which came in the chat box that is really relevant to this. And so thank you, Kent, for sending this in. So the question was around information that service providers collect. So they collect a lot of information like age, race, sex, and like what would be helpful for service providers to include? Is it helpful for service providers to include gathering information around sexual orientation, gender identity in their data collection? And if so, do you have suggestions on how that could be done successfully?
Yeah, amazing question. I think those are all great that you're already asking in your assessments. I don't think that the problem is that whether the questions are there or not. What I would say is hire trans people to also be there and to provide services. I think if we're trying to provide a specific service to a specific community, you should have representation of that community working there to be able to facilitate the conversation, because creating assessments and asking all these questions is really important, and having the data, for sure, I agree with that. But I also think that having individuals that can ask these questions and that can have a conversation where you can relate to, it really adds to how you can effectively obtain the information that you need. So I would say give opportunity to in this case, in this conversation, we're having trans individuals to be able to have a job and to be able to be a part of that process of gathering the information. I know that here at Alianza Translatinx, all the people that we hire are from the pool of individuals that we serve, because we're not only focused on providing a service, but we also want to create leaders in our community. We want to provide job opportunities. We want to make sure that they also have the opportunity to have a job, sustainability in their lives, while at the same time gathering all this amazing information, right? Like to further our work. So I would say it's a combination of both, having the right questions in your assessments, but also having individuals that are able to ask those questions and are able to relate to the population that you're serving.
Oh, that's great. Yes, 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 yes. And along those lines, you mentioned earlier, the need for people who are most affected to be a part of forming solutions. And so what are some ways that perhaps there might be leaders of organizations watching today? What are ways that they can help ensure that TGI voices are at the table? What does that look like?
I would just say opening the spaces for TGI individuals to be a part of the table, not just bringing them to the table, but also making them a part of the process, allowing for individuals to also speak their minds. And like this platform, Bex, like you invited me to have this conversation about a topic that it's affecting everybody, but also specifically for TGI people. And I truly appreciate that, because there isn't a lot of spaces out there that are doing this, and where are inviting of TGI individuals to come in and provide information and have these type of spaces. So I would say creating access is the first step. And then the second step would be allowing them to be a part of the process from beginning to end when we're trying to do the work.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I have really enjoyed our conversation. I have some quick fire questions that I'm going to ask you, rapid fire style. But before I do that, I want to just turn it back to Khloe. Is there anything that you didn't get a chance to talk about yet that you want to make sure you pass on to people who are watching?
Yeah, I think this is related to a question you asked earlier, and I didn't really get to expound on it, but I would say that um, for many TGI individuals, this is the first time that their experiences have been formally acknowledged in such a significant way. And having these stories documented in the report is also very validating. I know for me it is. It shows that our struggles are real, that we're not alone, and that change is possible. So for the TGI community, this report really represents hope and empowerment. And it's a chance for our voices to be heard and for our needs to be taken seriously. So I would say that personally, it is incredibly rewarding to see the stories of so many individuals that I know and that I care about being brought to the forefront of this conversation. Um, as a community, we face so much discrimination. We've been we have been tried to be raised by some people. We have made invisible sometimes. And this report is a step towards reversing all of that. So I just wanted to say that because, yeah, it touches my heart.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm going to do a couple of rapid fire questions that I like to do. And so, first question, if you had the power to instantly change one thing, what would that be and why?
I would say rent prices, and that there is like that you shouldn't be renting, you shouldn't even be paying for housing. That's what I would change. I would make rent disappear, and I would make land available for everybody.
Love it. Housing is a human right. Um, Subject for another day, but yes. What keeps you inspired in this work?
Mentors. I have a lot of amazing mentors that feed me with their knowledge, that inspire me to continue to do the work, and that I get to have enriching conversations with. And that's really what motivates me to continue to do the work. And also, I just come to work and I see people that are being lifted, and that also motivates me. The fact that we're working towards helping our own community.
Is there a book, video, podcast, or social media account that you would make required reading, listening, watching, following? That's a lot of things there. And what would that be?
Watch Pose if you haven't. The show Pose is an amazing show that shows the reality of our community in a way that it's very real. So I would say if you haven't seen anything related to the LGBTQ plus community, watch Pose. And it talks about not just LGBTQ plus community in general, but specifically about trans individuals. And that's really what really fascinated me about that show. And I don't usually watch TV that much. So I just want to mention like that's, yeah, I sat down and I binge watched it and it was amazing.
Thank you for that recommendation. I'm assuming that Alianza Translatinx has a presence on social media. If people want to find you, what platforms are you guys on?
We do. I'll mention the social medias for Alianza Translatinx, but also before that, I just also wanted to highlight the book of our beloved Cecilia Gentili, who was one of our board members and who recently tragically passed. Her book is Faltas, Faltas. It also talks about what a trans person goes through from early age. And she wrote this book, and it also was very inspiring for me to read. So if you have the time and the chance to read it, look for it. It's called Faltas. Yeah, and I see the link. That's an amazing book too, and very inspiring. All right, so I guess I can share the social medias for Alianza. We're on Instagram, Alianza_Translatinx. We're also on Facebook, Alianza Translatinx. And we have our website, alianzatranslatinx.org. And I think we just recently created a TikTok because we wanted to be more in touch with all of the youth and start creating content also to disseminate the information about our services. So look for us there, connect with us. You can also email us at info@alianzatranslatinx.org, and we would love to help you in any way we can.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. We haven't ventured onto TikTok, so you are ahead of us. It's on our radar. I'm not young enough or cool enough for that, so you're going to have to teach us how to do that.
I also had to learn, Bex. I'm not that young either, but
One day I'll be down with the cool kids who would never call themselves cool kids, so I've aged myself already. Well, Khloe, I cannot thank you enough for joining today on our community chat, for sharing your experiences, for being able to bring to light the experiences of the TGI community, for sharing your perspective, for being able to talk through some of the report, some of the findings and the manifesto. And again, this is the report. It's on their website. Definitely take a look at it. It's very easy to read. The information is presented in such a beautiful way, which I deeply appreciated. And I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us today. There will be a little poll popping up shortly on your screens. But Khloe, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for a wonderful conversation. This recording will go up on our YouTube channel, so it'll be available for anybody who wasn't able to join us live today. So tell your friends, tell your organization, reach out to Khloe, arrange for her to come and speak and share more information about this report and its findings. Thank you, Khloe.
Thank you, Bex. It was so fun to chat with you. I appreciate it. And thanks everyone for joining.